climate change. Have you been observing an increase in the temperatures according to your tracking of the past years compared to what we're experiencing this year?
Opo, kung sa climate, mostly yung nakikita kasi nating epekto is sa mga bagyo, which is, although hindi pa naman siya ganoon ka evident, pero may mga konti tayong napapansin na posibleng kumonti yung bagyo, pero mas posibleng mas lumakas yung intensity. Although I think yung with regards to climate, mas masasagot ng mga kasamahan nating climatologists po.
Sabi mo kanina, makakaranas tayo ng kaulanan na dun sa Southern Philippines. Dito sa Luzon, wala ba tayong maaasahan within this week or within today?
Wala tayong nakikita mga weather system na magdadala ng pangmalawakan o pangmatagalang mga pag-ulan sa Luzon. Although meron pa rin mga localized thunderstorms, pero ito ay posibleng maglast as short as 30 minutes and as long as 2 to 3 hours during severe cases.
Ano po mga huling paalala po ninyo bukod sa magtago sa araw during the peak hours of 11 to 3?
Apo, so maliban po sa pagstay indoors ng katanghalian, ugaliin din nating mag-inom ng tubig at iwasan nga din natin yung mga mainit na inumin kapag peak ng init, like tsaa, kape, soft drinks, and then gumamit ng payong kapag kailangan nating lumabas during peak hours.
Siguro magbaon ng maraming pasensya, no? Lalong-lalo na sa init na ito. Talagang medyo bumabagal ang takbo ng mga bagay-bagay. Okay, maraming salamat sa iyo, Pag-asa Weather Forecaster Veronica Torres. I hope you had at least a cool, restful Holy Week break. Thank you so much. Still on the Holy Week, the Philippine National Police has recorded 31 drowning incidents during Holy Week. According to the PNP, drowning incidents made up the majority of the 53 total cases recorded as of April 20. This year's figure is 28% lower than last year's 43 drowning cases during the same period. The PNP earlier sounded the alarm over the rising number of fatal drowning incidents, with 15 deaths reported from April 13 to 18. It also recorded other incidents, including vehicular accidents, robbery, fires, and cases of lasciviousness and stabbing. Meanwhile, the number of fatalities from the capsized MV Honghai 16 has increased to 9 as search and rescue efforts continue, according to the Philippine Coast Guard. Here's the report.
Cesar Monserrate, a 63-year-old crew member, had been planning to retire. According to his wife Evelyn, the MV Honghai 16 was supposed to be his final deployment. But he never made it home after the ship sank on Holy Tuesday. On Black Saturday, the search and rescue operation ended with the recovery of his body. He is the 7th confirmed fatality in the incident. The family has requested privacy at this time. As of Easter Sunday, the Philippine Coast Guard has recovered 2 more bodies, while 2 crew members remain missing. Authorities are temporarily sheltering the 14 survivors.
Tumatagilid po talaga yun pag nagkakare po kami. Pero hindi naman ganong tagilid, kaya parang nasanay na po kami na pag tumagalid, okay lang. Pero nung sobra na po yung tagilid, parang kinabahan na po kami.
Tinutulungan ko po si Kempe na kunin yung order naming prutas sa bangka po. Tapos yun po, nakakaramdam na din po kami na tumatagilid na. Kaya tumakbo po ako sa papuntang port side po namin. Kasi po nandun po lahat ng tao, sir.
An investigation by the Maritime Industry Authority is now underway. The company tasked with removing the vessel is expected to arrive this week.
The International Criminal Court has denied former President Rodrigo Duterte's request to limit the victim verification process in its drug war investigation. In a 20-page order issued on April 17, the pre-trial chamber approved the ICC registry's list of documents to verify the identity of victims seeking to participate in the case. It said the documents were sufficiently detailed and reduced the risk of fraud. The chamber also noted that in the absence of standard IDs, declarations signed by 2 witnesses may be accepted subject to review. Duterte is facing crimes against humanity charges over killings linked to the Davao Death Squad and police operations from 2011 to 2019. For her insights, we have ICC Assistant to Counsel Attorney Christina Conti. Welcome back to Morning Matters. I hope you had a good Holy Week break.
Yes, good morning, Gretchen. Yes, I did.
Your reaction to the ICC's decision to reject the defense's request to limit victim verification?
Well, first, it was expected because this follows jurisprudence of the court. There were prior admissions of this sort in Coney, in Ongwen. So dati na itong nailagay ng ICC na pwede namang patunay ng identity ang kahit na anong ID sa kanila noon dahil yung pagkakataon sa kanila merong nasunog, nag-evacuate sila, nasa refugee camp sila, kaya binigyan ng parang guidance na ito ang sitwasyon ngayon. In the Philippine situation, clearly the court favored the existing conditions, that the national ID system is not comprehensive, it is not mandatory as yet, and it is not even complete, di ba? May mga papel pa lang ang hawak. And that not everybody has passports. So we welcome this development.
But can you help us understand the challenge when it comes to getting actual identification documents from the victim?
Well, first, you have to understand the audience. The victims of the war on drugs were the poorest of the poor. Those who live in urban poor areas where identity documents are not, generally required. Wala silang mga security guard doon na kailangan mong pakitaan ng ID mo. These are not gated communities. And so the IDs that they would have tend to be like barangay IDs that they would use for work, possibly SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, but then that would depend on their employer if they would release these IDs to them. And so the minimum document that they would have would be an LGU ID or even a voter certificate in some cases. And to understand the situation also, the victims in this case, the victims of the case would also include the surviving kin. So for those who are quite unclear on this, the victims of an extrajudicial killing technically would be the dead or the deceased, but the surviving kin who have suffered harm. In fact, you could even go up to perhaps a best friend who suffered psychological harm could even claim to be a victim of a killing. Kaya lahat po ng naapektuhan ng killing are victims. And therefore, the IDs that could be available to them should or would probably run the whole gamut, the whole array of identification documents that are available. Minimum, LGU ID or any government-issued ID.
So, ibig sabihin, pwedeng kaibigan ng biktima
Yes.
o namatay. Kahit sinong kaibigan.
Yes,
Is there a need to establish
harm.
is there a need to establish relationship, a proof of relationship to the victim?
That's right. So, Gretchen, in this application process, there's 3 types of parang proofs or things that you need to present. First, proof of your identity. Kaya nga sabi ko, bakit tayo nagpo-focus dito lang? First is proof of identity that you exist as a person. Second, proof of victimhood, which would be the application form. You need to clearly state out what happened to the victim, dun sa namatay. Incident, paano. If you would like to submit a police report, that's fine. If you do not have it, that's also fine. Because at this point, this is not, in a sense, evidentiary. This is not add to the case of Duterte. Remember, this is just victims' participation. So it's a little bit lower than the participation of, say, a victim witness. So iba po ito. So for a participating victim, you just present proof or lay out the terms of victimhood. And then third, proof of relation to the victim. For those who are blood relatives, then of course you need to present your maybe birth certificate, death certificate, kasi it's also indicated kung sino yung wife, and I think surviving kin. And then for friends, we're quite unclear on this because we said, how do you prove friendship? So there's photos that you could also present. But I guess it's prima facie evidence. So dito, hindi naman yung magbubot-bot na parang, anong klaseng ebidensya ang kailangan dyan? Prima facie evidence. So whatever you say will not likely be contested by the other party. So even an indication or a proof that this is my relation to the deceased. Sorry, the fourth one is definitely harm. And you have to check that. So there's, in the form, it would be indicated if you had physical harm. Kung ikaw din, kunyari parang survivor, natamaan ka ng bala while your father was being killed or you were harmed, inuntog ka sa pader, etc. You could also claim financial harm. So, hindi ka na nakapag-aral pagkatapos mamatay yung breadwinner. You could also claim psychological harm. And if you have proof of such psychological harm, then you can present that as well. But that's not required. Yung mental health certificate or parang galing sa doktor, hindi mo naman kailangan. Pero actually for the ICC, we have a different perception here in the Philippines when we say moral damages, yung sleepless nights, anxiety. It is similar to that, but psychological harm could also be related to trauma or napapanaginipan mo or hindi ka maka-move on or may PTSD although it's not clinically diagnosed but you think it has affected you. So all these kinds of harm or anything that has affected you, if you claim it before the court, they will clarify it and see if you fall within the parang categories. They have categories na ito immediately accepted, ito hindi accepted, at ito medyo pag-iisipan pa. So that's how they will process these documents.
Well, under those qualifications, ibig sabihin pati ang kapitbahay ay pwedeng magreklamo, maging witness dito. Kung wari na witness mo lang yung nangyari sa kapitbahay mo at ikaw ay netroma, maaari ka ring maging victim or maging witness.
Pwede as a participating victim at ibang-iba ito sa pagiging witness.
Okay.
Yung participating victim, sabi nga namin may tatlo na nakaupo sa korte. Prosecution, defense, and they will be talking about the case. And then the third entity there would be the victims. And the legal team of the victims are entitled to present the views and concerns of the victims. It is not evidentiary in the sense na we will be the second prosecutor. Not really. If we want to include evidence, we would have to course it through the office of the prosecutor. In certain specific instances, the victims can present evidence, pero this would be about what is the situation of the victims now. Anong nangyari pagkatapos ng mga patayan? Ano ang itsura sa lugar namin? Ano yung prevailing feelings within the community? Sumaya ba kami? Natanggal na ba yung droga? And so forth. So those kinds of information could be volunteered to the court by the victims directly. And these are not necessary evidentiary in the sense na pasok siya dun sa proving the case or proving the crime.
Okay, so yung kapitbahay, papasok siya sa ilalim ng classification ng alin?
Victim, kung meron siyang harm, psychological harm, na pag sa kunyari sa gabi, magigising siya kasi may kalabog, naku, may bala na naman, nananaginip ng may patayan, may barilan. Itong klaseng psychological harm could be claimed as a harm that would qualify him as a victim. Pwede din kasi yung physical, kasi tumagos yung bala sa bahay nila. It could be that kind of property harm or property damage. Pwede din yun. So these are victims of the war on drugs or victims of the case. And this is rather complicated because there are many victims of Duterte's war on drugs, but there may be a small portion that will be qualified as victims of the case. Kasi may qualifier. So, hindi po ibig sabihin na hindi nakapasa sa ICC, hindi na kayo biktima. Hahanap siguro ng ibang paraan para maremedyohan yan. Kung kayo ay nakakita, so si kapitbahay na witness niya kung anong nangyari, then that person would become a victim witness and could volunteer such information to the court.
It does bring to mind, though, that back in the Duterte administration, there were several matrices released linking, to show the extent of the drug trade in the Philippines. How about those who were wrongly tagged? Do they also qualify as victims of the case?
Well, at this point, because the case is only limited to extrajudicial killings, all those who were harmed because of the killings could qualify as victims of the case. So, unfortunately, kung ganyan, parang other kinds of harm yan, or other kinds of victimization, we're trying to see if the prosecutor will include that kind of of, sabihin natin, torture or other inhumane acts as part of the acts committed within the crimes against humanity. We're trying to expand, in fact, the case to not only include extrajudicial killings, but also other forms of inhumane acts, including rape, torture, and even imprisonment. And that would certainly largen or widen the scope of the victims' side.
There are some who argue that the crimes of humanity on rape and torture could be hard to prove. What do we have on that end from what you're seeing so far? Paano kaya malilink yan kay former president if these are actually personal acts committed by law enforcement? They could be passed off as collateral damage to what has happened? Or what challenges do you see on that end?
Definitely the nexus. So yun nga, yung connection no rape o kaya ng torture doon kay Duterte as, for the case at present. So if the instructions include kill them and torture them on the side or rape them on the side, then that would really qualify as part of the entire modus operandi. However, and to be frank, I haven't heard Duterte say that explicitly. He has made jokes about rape, which were unacceptable, but not in the context of i-rape nyo lahat ng mga drug addict or i-torture nyo lahat ng mga drug addict. But if the unwritten or unsaid instructions include that to make them suffer as much as possible, then it could be appreciated in his favor in the sense that sabi niya patayin, and that includes everything within the scope of dehumanizing them. For Duterte and I think for the police, it has to be a clear point that the police did not, kumbaga, it's not their free will. Can I rape this or not rape this? So it should be within the mantle of instructions or directives. There could also be a connection to the reward. So kung yung reward system ay magko-cover pa rin dun sa rape at saka sa torture, it could be very well appreciated as part of the modus operandi. And even imprisonment. Actually, parang yun yung isa sa pinakamadali na i-prove kasi yung imprisonment necessary to the entire war on drugs. Ang sabi, magkulong at pumatay. Kaya inaabangan namin na ma-expand talaga yung charges ng prosecutor. Sinabi naman na that the prosecutor will be banking on its arguments in the warrant of arrest plus. At sa confirmation of charges, sinabi na rin niya na at least 2 witnesses ang ihaharap niya.
Okay, taking a look at all the things that you described, isn't it also a bit too broad in terms of qualifying victims and those who will stand as victims of or witnesses rather to this case? There were 30 identification documents recommended by the ICC registry, but the defense has said that they are trying to reduce the risk of fraud. Hindi ba parang ang lawak din naman nung maaaring maging qualification?
Well, for us also, we want to eliminate the risk of fraud na may peking biktima na makapasok o kaya ma-qualify dito sa ICC, which is why we ask that the IDs be presented. We are not objecting to the presentation of identification cards. What we're just asking is leeway in terms of ano ba yung available. There are costs to getting these IDs. Sabi nga nung isang victim, tinanong ko specifically about the passport because the defense wanted that, passport or national ID. The victim I talked to had a national ID paper. Tapos, no, parang card and then natatanggal yung picture niya. Sabi niya, attorney, okay ba to? Kasi yung picture niya parang nagpipeel off. I said, pwede naman siguro. But the passport, she says, why will I get a passport when it costs 1,200? I have to take time off from work, etc. And the costs will pile up. And I won't be using this passport. So I would rather get something for free. For example, the national ID, if I can take time off work. Or I will get a barangay ID, a postal ID, an LGU ID. other things that are immediately within reach. And as I've said, these are anyway alternative to each other. They are government issued and proper documents for identification. So on our part, that is already proof of their identity. Yung isa pang document na sinasabi nila is the birth certificate. I think everybody should have a birth certificate in the Philippines. But apparently, in urban poor communities, not everybody does. Or people have, ano ba to? Hindi fake eh. Let me just find the word. Defective birth certificates. Baby girl Santos. So they haven't been able to check these birth certificates. In some cases, there are double registrations of birth certificates kasi ni-register ni nanay, ni-register ni tatay, tapos magkaibang birthday. Yung ibang sitwasyon naman, apologies, pero anak sa labas at hindi alam kung anong ilalagay na pangalan. So yung iba, nawawalan ng middle name. Yung iba naman, kinukuha kaagad yung pangalan ng tatay kahit walang acknowledgement sa likod. So nagkakagulo kasi namatay na si tatay, wala namang pirma sa likod ng papagamit niya yung last name niya. So para po dun sa mga komportable na at maayos, siguro hindi nyo na po problemahin. Pero yung iba, posibleng maging problema. And the only thing that we ask is for understanding that whatever the situation is in these communities, we have to accept that and adjust accordingly. The worst situation that you could have is you have no ID. And we are thankful that the ICC will consider, actually the pretrial chamber says that they will consider, but you have to present the affidavit. So ito na yung magiging, in lieu of any ID kung wala ka talaga, here is an affidavit of two persons who say or who will testify that you are this particular person. So ito yung pangalan mo, dito ka nakatira at dito ka pinanganak. So at the least, we have that default or parang catch-all kung sakaling hindi pwede, kung walang ID.
And the prosecution has until July 1 to submit evidence. What should we expect by then?
Well, the thing is, this exchange of evidence is not, in a sense, comprehensive, that they will give everything. They will indicate how many witnesses there will be. They will indicate in preliminary matters what will be the language. At the most, they would indicate the nature of the testimonies of the witnesses. I do think there will be disclosure of part of the documents. At the minimum, they will give the title of the documents because they said they have like something thousands of pages. They will maybe say that we will present as document Command Memorandum Circular 2016-16, which the defense would have or should have kasi this is tokhang o plantokhang. So kung ilang pages man yun, edi ayan na yun. They will definitely identify dates. So this is important for us, I think. They will identify the dates when the hearings will be held. Kung sa atin kasi, and of course, the dates will depend on the number of witnesses. So sa limbayan yun. The defense also has a disclosure requirement to disclose portions of their evidence or at the least yung direction of their defense. And we will scrutinize more closely itong submissions ng defense kasi hindi pa yata ina-upload yung sa mismong sa defense. Ano? Pero interesting to kasi pwedeng sabihin ni Duterte ay I will invoke grounds to exclude criminal responsibility like insanity, incapacity. That would be really interesting if he indicates so.
Wow, a lot to expect by that date. But I do remember you saying that at least a month before the September confirmation of charges hearing, all witnesses should be turned in. Is that correct? Dapat yung July 1 ba yung deadline na yon na dapat lahat ng witness na gustong mag-come forward ma-submit na at ma-declare na?
Well, I would say so, yes. But I think the absolute, parang the hard deadline would be yung August. So August 1 month before. But yung July, parang agahan naman natin. I'm seeing that this pre-trial chamber is very strict with the deadlines. So they're sticking to parang maximum and minimum. So hindi sila lumalampas doon sa periods involved. For example, the first appearance should be done within 48 hours to 96 hours. They did the minimum. And then the confirmation of charges hearing should be set within 6 months, 6 months to 9 months. I think they did 6 months. 4 months to 6 months. So they did 6 months, the maximum. So now they're keeping to the time and they're setting the deadline earlier pa for people. For the victims, the deadline is August. Pero I guess for the prosecution and the defense, because the defense actually is asking for time na pag binigay nyo naman sa amin yung ebidensya, give us time to digest it and understand it. And therefore, our disclosure of evidence will be on a rolling basis also. Kumbaga, as you give it, then we will respond. I don't see any reason why it could expand beyond August. By September, more or less, all things should be set in place already. So for the
Right.
I'm just going back to for the victims / witnesses who want to come forward, please be mindful of the deadline. So kung meron pa po kayong nalalaman sa war on drugs, pwede pa pong humarap, kaya pang ihabol. Pero sana June 30 at the latest. At meron pong iba't ibang mga platform kung paano humarap sa ICC. Meron silang website, Witness Appeals. At meron din silang microsite doon na OTP link. Pwede pong mag-apply doon or mag-suggest kung ano yung mga areas for the OTP to investigate further.
All right. Thank you so much for giving us updates on the ICC case and dropping some bombshells over there over what to expect in the coming months. Maraming salamat. We have ICC Assistant to Counsel Attorney Christina Conti on Morning Matters
Thank you,
today.
Gretchen, for the time.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after the break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. 3 suspects in the kidnapping of Filipino-Chinese businessman Anson Ke and his driver are now under police custody. Here's the report.
Chinese national David Danyao surrendered to the PNP anti-kidnapping group and confessed on April 19. He admitted that he was involved in the kidnapping and killing of Filipino-Chinese businessman Anson Ke and his driver Armani Pabilio. 2 other Filipino suspects, Richard Catequista and Richard Austria David, also known as Richard Dan Garcia, were earlier arrested in Palawan. All 3 have been charged with 2 counts of kidnapping for ransom with homicide. In the CCTV footage released by the PNP, Ke and Pabilio were seen visiting a house in Maykawayan, Bulacan on March 29, driving a black van. According to the police, they met with a female Chinese national who acted as a bait for the suspects. Another CCTV video captured the same black van at the toll gate of Tambubong exit in NLEX, this time driven by Garcia. In a separate CCTV clip, both Garcia and Yao were seen outside the same house visited by the victims. Police say this is where the victims were tied up and killed, with some of their belongings recovered inside. Authorities are now looking into motives beyond kidnapping for ransom.
May tinitingnan po kaming anggulo na posible po na Pogo-related po ito. Meron po kaming isa pang anggulo na we have a very solid lead na tinitignan na hindi lamang kidnapping for ransom ang pakay ng grupo na ito.
Meanwhile, police say Yao had previously been implicated in at least 5 other kidnapping cases linked to Pogo operations. While 3 suspects are now in custody, 2 more Chinese nationals identified as the main perpetrators remain at large, along with a suspected mastermind. Authorities also revealed that the group demanded $220 million in cryptocurrency as ransom. They are now tracking the flow of the digital funds in hopes of identifying more individuals involved in the crime.
Senator Bongo topped the latest senatorial preference survey conducted by the social weather stations, garnering support from 45% of respondents. Trailing closely behind is AXIA's party list representative Erwin Tulfo with 43%, while Senator Lito Lapid secured third place with 34%. Also part of the Magic 12 are former Senate President Tito Soto, Senators Pia Cayetano, Bato de la Rosa, and Bong Revilla. The list further includes broadcaster Ben Tulfo, Makati Mayor Abby Binay, Las Piñas Representative Camille Villar, and former Senators Ping Lacson and Manny Pacquiao. The SWS survey was conducted from April 11 to 15, 2025. Nora Aunor's fans, collectively known as Noranians or Noranians, paid their final respects to the multi-awarded actress. Many traveled from the provinces just to catch a last glimpse of the superstar. Some even stayed overnight, patiently waiting in line. More than her iconic roles in film and television, her children Ian and Matet said her most important role was being a mother. They also expressed their gratitude to the Noranians who made efforts to see their idol one last time.
Ang mami namin, grabe magmahal yan eh. Alam natin yan. Grabe siya magbigay. Unahin niya mga ibang tao bago ang sarili niya.
Malaking pasasalamat namin kay Mami dahil kinuha niya kami para maging anak niya. You know, for accepting me and my brothers and my sister. Inampun niya kami, maiparamdam niya sa amin yung pagmamahal niya.
Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back right after a short break. I'm Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. A recent survey by social weather stations shows that most Filipinos say their quality of life has remained the same over the past year. The survey found that 38% of respondents said their quality of life stayed the same. Meanwhile, 31% reported an improvement, while 30% said it worsened. The number of Filipinos who said their lives worsened rose by 5 points compared to February, while those who said their lives improved remained consistent. The poll was conducted from March 15 to 20 with 1,800 respondents nationwide. Well, to share insights on that and other pressing matters, we are joined this morning by Attorney Buko or Enrique de la Cruz, nominee of the Bangon Bagong Minero or BBM party list. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Gretchen, and to your viewers.
Okay, so your reaction to that, 38% of Filipinos say their quality of life has stayed the same. For you, is that something positive or something that tells us pareho lang naman?
No, it's actually positive kasi ang impression, perception ng tao ay lumalala ang ekonomiya because of the political turmoil, because of what's happening in international trade, etc. Now we can see from this survey that it's not really affecting most Filipinos. Those who say that their lives are at worst, medyo mababa pa yung rate or yung level. Hindi pa alarming.
Well, medyo malaki rin ang
5 points.
percent ng Filipinos reporting that their quality of life worsened over the past year, 30%. You are running for a seat in Congress under the BBM party list, a second nominee.
Yes.
What for you would be a possible solution to that? I mean, when you're taking a look at what's happening in the headlines now, you mentioned economic instability, of course, political instability as well. Ano para sa'yo ang dapat masolusyonan?
Yeah. Una-una, people complain about government when they don't feel the benefits of government. No? So ang governance dapat, yung sinasabi nating pondo ng gobyerno, dapat diretsong pupunta sa tao. So it's access to all of these benefits. No? Like when you go to other countries, people feel that their government is present because if you don't have jobs, there's unemployment benefit. If you get sick, there's free healthcare. So I think the measure of any government success is when the needs of its people are met timely and adequately.
Pero dito sa Pilipinas,
Yun nga eh. So there are certain cogs. We're getting there, but it takes a lot of, it takes time. No? So first, we must strengthen the institutions. So sa healthcare, for example, so para maramdaman ng tao na may gobyerno, dapat pag nagkasakit siya, hindi na niya pinoproblema yung bayad sa ospital. Bakit nagagawa yun ng ibang bansa? So ang first step na dapat gawin dyan is strengthen natin yung institution na nagpo-provide ng assistance. PhilHealth, for example. So when you hear in the news that money meant for PhilHealth are allocated or reallocated somewhere else, that's alarming, di ba? That's not strengthening the institution. Hindi mo pinapalakas yung institusyon na dapat nagpo-provide ng ganitong assistance.
so you don't agree with the move of the recommendation of the Department of Finance to transmit the excess funds of the PhilHealth back to the National Treasury?
Hindi naman sa hindi nag-agree. Nakikita ko lang na hindi siya aligned sa purpose kung bakit siya inallocate in the first place. You have to understand that this was already allocated. So hindi mo naman yan i-allocate kung hindi niya yan kailangan, hindi ba? So pag ni-reallocate mo siya at meron pang mga unpaid liabilities ang PhilHealth, claims which haven't been paid, it's a misuse of what was previously allocated. So tingin ko it's probably ill-advised.
Pero yun din ang sinabi nilang naisingit, no, sa BICAM. Yung provision na yun na maaaring mag-transmit back to the National Treasury ng excess funds at magamit yung unappropriated or unprogrammed appropriations rather for those excess funds, which was also pushed by the administration, the current Congress.
Tama. But that provision exists in all other budget provisions. In all other entities. Pag may savings, pwedeng i-reallocate. Hindi yun bago. Ang bago ay yung in-exercise mo yung discretion na yun. That discretion has always been there. Lahat naman talaga ng departamento, including constitutional bodies, pag meron silang natirang pera, pwede nilang gamitin sa ibang purpose. Pero ang tanong, kailan mo gagamitin yung yung discretion na yan. Kailan mo yan gagamitin yung magdesisyon ka ng ganyan? Dapat, kapag lahat ng needs ng entity na yon ay satisfied na, tsaka mo lang ililipat gamit. Pero dito, inamin naman nila na may mga utang pa, may mga unpaid claims pa.
So do you think there was something questionable there in that transmission of the money?
Baka ill-advised lang at that time.
Okay, I asked that because you're running under BBM party list, which is it seems to be very closely or directly allied to the administration. Is the Bagong Minero party list allied with the administration?
No, hindi naman. Nagkataon lang na yung pangalan niya ay BBM. It's primarily for the mining industry, the mining workers. No? So ang kinakatawan namin ay mga minero at yung mga nasa industriya ng pagmimina. So yung salitang BBM ay sa initial na Bagong Minero. Pero wala namang
Pero malapit
ini-endorse,
din yun kasi Bagong Pilipinas,
Correct,
Bagong
correct.
Minero.
We are supportive of the President's agenda, especially for the mining industry. Pero walang formal na endorsement. Wala namang ganun talagang ginawa ang administrasyon sa mga party list.
Okay, so help me understand why you are running for a Congress seat. You are a lawyer for some of prominent figures. We always see you on television. Why the Congress this time around?
Yung nakikita namin problema sa industriya ng pagmimina, ang solusyon na nakikita namin, batas. Kailangan baguhin ang batas, kailangan magkaroon tayo ng amendment sa existing laws. Kaya naisip nung buong grupo na samahan ng mga nagmimina, mga minero, na panahon naman na magkaroon tayo ng boses sa Kongreso. That's why we're here. We're participating. Dali ng purpose ng party list. Mga sektor na marginalized, underrepresented, na walang boses sa Kongreso, dapat naman siguro meron. May mga anti-mining dun pero walang pro-mining.
Hindi ba ang mining ay represented by big corporations?
Yun ang misconception. Dahil ang pagmimina, isang buong industriya. Lahat tayo nakikinabang sa pagmimina. Pero ang bulk ng source ng mina ay yung mga minero. So yun yung marginalized and underrepresented sector na nais naming ikatawanin o i-represent din sa Kongreso.
And what is your platform? You mentioned sharing the same agenda as the president when it comes to the mining industry. Ano yung intersection na yun of interests and also principles?
Yes. Una-una, the administration of President BBM had a big pivot towards mining. In fact, yung Maharlika Fund, ang unang pinautang niya ngayon ay isang kumpanya nagmimina. Ito ay tanda na ang administrasyong ito ay naniniwala na ang pagmimina o ang buong industriya ng pagmimina ay maaaring magamit towards achieving economic goals ng gobyerno. Pangalawa, nais namin bigyan pansin din. We need to focus on the mining workers. Paano ba ang kanilang 8 to 5 ba ang job nila? May overtime ba sila? Meron din ba sila mga SSS benefits? Ito yung mga usapin na dapat siguro nasa isang batas lang. Magna Carta for mining workers. Pangalawa, gusto rin ng presidente na palakasin ng local government. How is that related to mining? Yung mga shares na nakukuha. Alam mo, ang pagmimina, hati yan Hati ang gobyerno at yung mining companies.
May mga player.
Dapat yung local government, meron ding pondo nakukuha. Parang tobacco. Pagka nagtanim ka ng tobacco, yung cigarette companies, may binibigay na share sa local government.
So, ibig sabihin doon sa pagmimina na ginagawa ngayon, in the legal sites, ay walang nakukuha ang gobyerno?
No, malaki nakukuha ng gobyerno. Kasi nga, hindi kamukha ng ibang industriya like developing a subdivision, etc. Tax lang ang binabayad nila. Pero sa pagmimina kasi, may hati sa kita ang gobyerno. At isa yun sa reform initiative ng BBM administration, yung fiscal incentives na babaguhin. So, kami supportive kami doon na dapat linawin talaga natin ang tamang distribution. Hindi lang between the government and the mining companies. Dapat pati yung mga dapat nakikinabang din yung mga komunidad, the community where the mining actually is being done.
Okay, meron na tayong mga minahang bayan, ano? Actually, nabisita ko yung isa sa may Cam North, sa may Paracale, yung gold mining industry doon. Ano bang dapat pa nating ipanukala para mapatibay pa? I mean, how do you balance, for one, environmental sustainability and sustainability of these mining sites and not have it lead to exploitation?
Okay. Yung mga minahang bayan ay small scale mining, no? Para maging minahang bayan ka, dapat maliliit lang na pagmimina. Walang mga malalaking equipment ito, no? Ito yung mano-mano. Yan. Yan ay gino-govern ng local governments. Yung mga malalaking pagmimina, like mineral mining, gold mining, na malalaking kumpanya, governed by the DENR. Ang isang nakikita namin problema, yung perception ng tao na nakakasira ng environment ang pagmimina ay dun sa mga hindi sumusunod sa batas. Karaniwan, ito yung mga maliliit na nagmimina na walang sapat na pondo para i-rehabilitate yung kanilang minimina. Kaya ang aming isinusulong ay tulad ng requirement ngayon. Sa kasalukuyan, alam mo, Gretchen, sa mga malalaking kumpanya na sumusunod sa batas, no? Sa bawat isang puno na puputulin, 100 ang kapalit. Ito lang ang industriya na may ganung requirement. Yung mga nagde-develop ng subdivision. Pag pinatag na nila yung bundok, ginawa ng subdivision, wala naman silang requirement na magtanim ng puno. Pero yung mga mining, yung mining companies there required, sa bawat isang puno, 100 ang kapalit. Yung small-scale mining, walang ganon. So, kinakailangan magkaroon tayo ng parehong standards para sa mga nakikita natin. Ito kasi yung karaniwang nakikita eh. At ito yung nagiging impression ng taong bayan. Masama sa kalikasan yan. Kasi tinan mo, pinuputol yung mga puno. Diba? So, kinakailangan pareho ang standards. Para ma-monitor din ng DENR, pati yung small-scale mining, na ngayon ay hawak ng LGUs. Ang permit nila, hindi DENR. Ang monitoring nila, hindi DENR. Local government.
So dapat ba DENR din yun?
Dapat siguro meron ding isang standard na ginagamit para sa lahat sa buong Pilipinas. Pare-pareho. Para hindi iba-iba. Kasi kung LGU, iba-iba yan. Kasi iba-iba ang batas nila or ordinansa.
Saan niyo nakikita ang potential ng Pilipinas when it comes to the mining industry? I mean, we are in the midst of a global trade war, a rebalancing of economies. Of course, there would be some countries who might go to the Philippines to establish shop here. Ano po ang potential po natin pagdating sa mining industry?
Malaki ang potential ng Pilipinas because the Philippines is the 5th most mineralized country in the world. Gretchen, wala pang 2% ng areas which are suitable for mining ang namimina natin. Wala pang 60 ang kumpanyang nagmimina sa Pilipinas. Less than 2% ang namimina natin. Imagine the potential. Despite these limitations, pangalawa tayo nag-i-export ng nickel. Pag hindi nag-export ang Indonesia, tayo ang unang kukunan nila. Bakit ito significant? Di ba uso ngayon ang green technology, ang green revolution, sustainable energy, mga electric vehicles? Question, saan ba galing yung mga baterya? Hindi ba mining galing yan? Nickel, lithium, cobalt, lahat yan. So kung gusto mo ng sustainable electric vehicle, green revolution, kailangan magsuporta ka ng mining. With the tariff wars, with the trade wars, no, ang pinakamalaking exporter ng nickel at mga raw materials for electric vehicles, China. If they stop exporting to the US, maghahanap ang US ng source. Saan siya kukuha? Pilipinas ang isa pang pwedeng panggalingan ng ganitong source. Marami tayo niyan. Pero hindi pa lahat namimina. Ngayon pa lang, under BBM administration, na-lift na yung moratorium, ini-encourage na ngayon ang pagmimina, binubuhay muli ang usapin ng pagmimina.
Kayo po ay nag-represent ng several mining companies.
Yes.
When it comes to the nickel, when it comes to this trade, paano nyo po mapiprevent ang conflict of interest? Siyempre, iba na po ang magiging role ninyo. Kung sakasakali po kayo makakuha ng Congress seat, paano nyo po babalansihin yun?
Abay, tama nga na dapat galing sa pagmimina ang mauupo at magiging boses ng minero. Walang conflict of interest kasi isa lang yung industriya eh. Bahagi ng industriya ang minero at ang mga nagmimina at ang mga mining companies. Mas naiintindihan namin yung problema kaya mas alam namin yung solusyon. Sa parehong banda, ang mga senior citizen ang pwedeng mag-represent sa kanila, dapat senior citizen, hindi ba? So ang pwedeng mag-represent sa industriya ng pagmimina ay yung mga nasa industriya ng pagmimina. Kaya yun ang aming isinusulong.
Curious to know what you think about what's happening over at the Masungi Geo Reserve. Meron po dong pagtatalo ang DENR pati na rin ang Blue Star Construction, because they say that one of the problems that surfaced, of course, they were trying to prevent minors from going in. Meron na silang ibang parts daw na kinakwari. Pero syempre, alam din natin may komplikasyon yan when it comes to the joint venture agreement with the government. Sa pag-aaral niyo po sa sitwasyon, anong assessment niyo doon? Paano ba natin, yun nga, doon mismo sa ecosystem ng Masungi, dapat ba kinakwari? Dapat ba pinapayagan yung ganun? Or is that area totally sensitive?
Okay. Unang-una, tandaan natin na yung Masungi Geo Reserve is not a private property. So yung mga naririnig mong nag-iingay na nagrereklamo, ito yung mga binigyan ng pribilehiyo. They were given the privilege to manage it, no, for a certain period. At nung tinanggal ng gobyerno yung privilege na yon, sila ngayon yung nagrereklamo on how parts of that property will be used. Ang anumang pagmimina, including quarrying or use of mineral resources, ay kontrata between the government and a private party. So sa tingin ko, kung sa assessment ng DENR, may mga parts ng Masungi na suitable na for quarrying, I would defer to their judgment on that. Hindi naman kasi yung buong Masungi Geo Reserve ang gagamitin for quarrying. I would understand na merong iniisip na magiging danger sa environment. But we need to trust the system, the process, on how this information are filtered and permits are granted.
But does the system always work? Alam pa natin, maraming loopholes yan, lalong-lalo na sa pagkuha ng permit, ano?
Yes. Tama naman yun. Kaya nga siya
minsan arbitrary, minsan subjective, and gaya na sabi mo, itong nangyari sa PhilHealth ay ill-advised, pero nangyari pa rin.
Correct. Kaya naman may mga remedies available. In fact, may remedies ang local government. Siya ang unang pinakamalapit dun sa lugar. May remedies ang courts. May remedies din naman sa DENR if there are any violations.
Alright, saan po kayo maaabutan sa inyong kampanya? At paano po yan kapag nanalo ang BBM party list ng isang seat, maaari po bang mag-giveaway ang first nominee?
Hindi naman. Basta merong nanalo, basta nanalo yung party list, yung advokasya ay maisusulong. Kami are workers lang kami. So basta manalo yung party list, ibig sabihin naniniwala ang taong bayan sa isinusulong namin mga plataforma.
Alright, maraming salamat. Marami tayong tatanungin pero wala nang oras. Kamusta na si Daryl Yap? Joke lang. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We have you in Party List second nominee, Attorney Buco de la Cruz. Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back right after a short break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still with us here on Morning Matters. In the world of sports, the Cream Line Cool Smashers opened their 2025 ABC Women's Champions League campaign on a high note, a sweep of Al Nasser Club. Cream Line dominated the match in straight sets, 29-27, 25-20, and 25-19. Eliza Valdez in imports Erica Staunton, Anastasia Kolomoyets, and Anastasia Kudryashova led the team's bounce back after their PVL finals loss. Staunton led all scorers with 17 points, while Valdez added 10 in the win at the PhilSports Arena in Pasig. The Cool Smashers look to keep the momentum as they face Kazakhstan's Zeti Su VC today. The PLDT high-speed hitters also opened their AVC campaign with a win, beating Queensland and Pirates of Australia in straight sets. Savvy Davison led the high-speed hitters with 14 points, while Wilma Salas added 10. Oh, wow. And the final news is... yes. Ang awkward pala mag-celebrate ng birthday mag-isa. Wow, thank you. Yeah, something that happened over the weekend, I turned a year younger. Maraming salamat sa ating Morning Matters crew. Happy to be celebrating my birthday. Hopefully, not alone anymore in the next year. In the meantime, this is me greeting you a good day, a good week ahead right after the Holy Week break. And that's it for today's episode of Morning Matters. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time. Thank you.